Hi everyone, Emily here from Emily Reads, and today I have my July 2022 reading wrap up. And I had a really great reading month. I am a teacher, I was not working this summer, and I did not have any classes that I had to take this summer. This is the first time since 1995 when I graduated high school where I had nothing planned for the summer. So it was wonderful. I read 10 books. I read 3,758 pages. I listened to an audiobook that was 9 3/4 of an hours long. So it was a great reading month. That being said, if you're someone watching this and you're like, man, I didn't even finish a book, like if you're reading, you're doing great. Like life circumstances change for people. Sometimes mental health issues um, can impede your reading life. Just do your best. Do not compare yourself to what anyone else is doing. Just focus on yourself. I know that when the pandemic hit back in 2020, I could not focus on books. Next month is going to be a decrease significantly in numbers because I have a work conference and work is starting back up for me because I'm a teacher. So I know that my stats and things are going to change, and that's just part of life. Just as long as you're keep reading, if that's something that you find enjoyable and relaxing, that's all that matters. So that being said, I'm going to dive right into the reviews because this is going to be a long video otherwise. So the first book I read was Kaikai by Vaishnavi Patel, and this is a telling. So in Indian culture, there is a story called the Ramayana, and it focuses on Rama, who he in that culture he is an avatar of the god of Vishnu, who has come to Earth to rid the earth of evil. However, there he has a stepmother, Kaikai, who basically banishes him and exiles him from the kingdom for a while. This story is a telling of her side of the story. So it actually focuses on her the story starts when she's 12, I believe, and it follows her entire life. So knowing the background, you might think, why are we not at this event? Why is it not more pivotal? But because all of her life's events kind of lead up to that moment to help us understand why we got to that moment where she is banishing basically her son. She is married to a king of a realm, and he has 3 wives, and they all are kind of sister wives. They all have a beautiful friendship, and so Rama is basically a son because they all helped raise each other's children. If you like stories about like retellings, if you like stories about women's agency and autonomy, this and women's friendship where they're not competing against each other, this was a beautiful, beautiful book. I had the privilege of being able to, one of the Facebook groups that I am in, the moderator of that group runs a podcast, and she did a Zoom call with the author. And here's what's fascinating. So this author just graduated Harvard Law School, and she wrote this book during her studies at Harvard Law School. She was just so very well spoken. I really appreciated being able to be a part of that discussion. And she's already researching and beginning the writing process for another retelling. It's another Indian religious text, and I don't remember the name of it. So again, I really thought this was a wonderful, beautiful read. 5 stars. The next book I don't have to show you, that would be Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood. It is the third in her in her novella series about 3 friends who are involved in STEAM, and Below Zero, our main character, and I forget her name, She works for NASA and um, goes to Norway to um, set up a research project that she's very heavily involved in. But the lead of that project is like, no, don't go. It is not safe for you to go. You are not to go. And someone else at work is like, haha, no, you can go. It's fine. Let's go together. So she goes and chaos ensues. It's of the three. So she's got three. It was the first one was Under One Roof, then it was Stuck With You, and then Below Zero. I would say Stuck Up, Under One Roof was the best of the three. This was the second best. I gave it 3 stars. Then the next book I read was Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. So this is the second book after Black Sun. I was so looking forward to it. Like Black Sun, I gave it 5 stars. I finished the book in the morning. I ran out to the bookstore that afternoon and I bought Fevered Star. And I was so excited and I was let down. And here's why I think I was let down. So in Black Sun, the pace is so rapid because you know that we're leading to this cataclysmic event. Okay? In Fevered Star, this is now what is happening to all our POVs after that cataclysmic event. So in Black Sun, there was tension because we knew something was going to happen and it was going to be big. And we knew what the different perspectives felt about what could happen at this event. Now it's, what do we do after this event? And so I didn't feel like there was something that they were building towards. So as I kept reading it, I kept thinking, what is our end game? What is our goal? What is that piece that we're looking for and trying to do? And it's there for some of the characters. It just wasn't as high as I want it to be. Like the stakes weren't as high as I want it to be. There for sure is going to be another book in this series. I still plan on I think it's going to be a trilogy. I could be wrong on that. I do plan on picking up the next book. I'm curious to see how the different plot lines are resolved. But this definitely did suffer from middle book syndrome. The next book I read, I actually listened to, and that was Red Velvet Cupcake Murder. And it's a Joanne Fluke book, and it follows Hannah Swenson. It's very much a cozy mystery. Hannah Swenson, she is a baker. She runs a cookie shop in small town Minnesota, and she also solves mysteries. I really enjoy Joanne Fluke's books. They're a nice, light read, and they're just very feel-good and cozy. And I gave that 3.5 stars. So I highly recommend, if you like cozy mysteries, check out Joanne Fluke's Hannah Swenson series. Then the next book I read was Nevermoor, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. And this is a middle grade book, and it follows Morgan, who is born on Eventide, which that means that she is now cursed. And anything bad that happens to people is a result of her. And so she grows up having to apologize for everything. In addition, she grows up knowing that when she turns 11, she's going to die. So it's not a great existence. So then there's a man named Juniper North, and he comes and he whisks her away, and he says, I want you to go and live in Nevermoor, which is a magical kind of city, and I want you to participate in these trials with against all these other children, so that way you could be one of the select few to join the Wondrous Society. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I wanted just a little bit more. I felt like it kind of dragged in places. Like we get the trials, and those are very interesting, and then we have like downtime between the trials, and those are scenes that I felt sometimes kind of dragged. Um, I did like in the I. It's compared to like if you like Harry Potter, then read this. Um, to me, I thought the comparison fit better with Alice in Wonderland, where it has a lot of magical whimsy to it. Um, so that's where I would draw my comparison. I would continue on with the series, but it's not going to be a high priority for me. Like I probably will not pick up the next book until next year or so, simply because while I enjoyed it, it was good, but it wasn't like, yes, I need to continue on. The twist that is in this book, I thought it was kind of predictable. So there's that. Um, but again, it was a solid showing. I know I'm probably um, the minority. Seems to be a pretty well beloved book series. So, Nevermore. Then the next book I read was Blood of Dragons by Robin Hobb, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. So this is the fourth book in the Rain Wild Chronicles, and this is fourth and last book in the Rain Wild Chronicles, and this is okay, I'm going to do some fast math here, the 13th book in the Realm of the Elderlings series. And it does a wonderful job tying up a lot of the storylines that have developed since book one of the Rain Wild Chronicles. We get a couple of different point of views that we didn't have before. We start getting some more answers about the magic system and the dragons that have been there since book one of the Rain Wild Chronicles. And it made me go, oh my gosh, we have 3 more books to go. I cannot wait to get even more answers, because while we have answers to some of our questions, those answers actually raise more questions, which means that Robin Hobb is such a good author to be able to do that. And the fact that she started these books, and there's 16 books, and it took her 2 decades to write these books, and to still have these moments, and to go back from book 1 and to remember, man, I dropped this here in book 1, and now I got to answer it now in book 13. That is impressive. So we had some some really good moments. I should add, the 5 stars are rounded up. There is a plot development here with a character, Rapsco. I didn't like. I'm going to just leave it at that. I didn't like it. Also, I need to note there is a trigger warning for rape. So there is rape in this book. Now, here's where I appreciate with how Robin Hobb handles it. We get the lead up, so we know that there's going to be a rape. We don't get any description of the rape. And then the aftermath of the rape, the voice where we get it from is we hear from those who have survived the rape and who have been raped. And it's a brutally hard read, what they write and what they say. However, I think it's so important that we get their perspective, and that the voices that we hear are from those who have been raped. So, sorry, I'm tearing up talking about this, because it was a hard read. beautifully written, but it was a hard read. So if that is a trigger for you, just be prepared for that. You might need to skip over that. But I hope that that could be healing for people to read that, to know that there are people who can understand the pain, because she definitely understands the pain of that. So, Blood of Dragons, trigger warning, but Robin Hobb, so beautiful. All right. The next book I read, we're going to continue with the dragon theme, was A Natural History of Dragons, and I, for some reason, gave this 4 stars. This is the first book by Marie Brennan in the Memoirs of Lady Trent. I'm trying to remember why I gave this 4 stars. Yeah, I think I bumped this up to 4.5. It was really good. I think maybe it suffered from the fact that it's following the heels of Robin Hobb. But still, it was really good. I think I'm going to bump this up to 4.5. So in this, we get the story of Isabella, Lady Trent, and she is telling her life story. And so the book starts off when she's in her teens, and she wants to learn about dragons. But she's a female, and this is kind of like in Victorian times, so studying sciences and reading and, having that knowledge of the natural world is just not looked upon. As female, she should be studying things that would make her into be a good wife and then become a good wife. And so, but her father and one of her brothers kind of will give her books on the slide to read to kind of help encourage her in those passions. And that's actually kind of how she ends up meeting her husband, who her husband is just a wonderful character, who also encourages her in her studies. And so they go on a trip to investigate and study these dragons. And they're in this small town, and it's kind of like a town in Romania. It's not Romania, it's a fictional country, but it reminds me of Romania a lot. And for some reason, these dragons are attacking humans. And why are they attacking humans? So we have this mystery of what is going on with these dragons, and her studies of the dragons on the trip. There's illustrations in here that are just absolutely beautiful. And they're in there because she was actually hired, she was able to go on this trip to say, like, I will help file all of your notes, and I will draw pictures of the things that you find and discover on this journey. It was also a fascinating look into, again, women's agency, women's autonomy. What is her role? She very much does not fit in society, and she constantly talks about that throughout this book. She's like, I like studying the natural world and dragons and science, and I can't talk about that with women because I'm not supposed to be studying that, and the women aren't studying that because it's not ladylike, and I can't talk about this with the men because I'm not supposed to. I'm not acting like how a woman should. So where do I fit in society? There was one other warning. She, just to also warn you, if this also potentially has a trigger warning, she does suffer from depression specifically. So please keep that in mind. And so this book kind of describes what she does to help cope with her depression. Um, I'm looking forward to the next book. This was part of a read along on the Shelf Space server Discord, and Kate from the Literary Apothecary, she did like a live show discussion with Evie from She Was Only Evie, um, and I don't know who else was on that live discussion on YouTube. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I couldn't watch it yesterday when they posted it. Then the next book I read was, after a whole bunch of fantasy, I needed to take a little bit of a break. And so I read Another Dawn by Sandra Brown, and this was a reread for me. I read this years and years ago. I found this at my library. They have a perpetual book sale, and this was actually on a cart where they were giving away free books. So I took this from there, and this is actually the second book in a duology, kind of, but you can read it without having read the first book, because they refer to some of the events, they kind of allude to them. But this is the story. It's set in Texas, kind of in the Wild West. And Banner Coleman, she's the daughter of a ranching family that is very well to do. And she is about to be married. And at her wedding day, something happens where she's betrayed by her husband to be, and so the wedding is called off, and she is hurt and damaged by that, and she is looking for comfort, and she hooks up with her parents' friend, Jake Langston, who he's like 16 or 18 years older than her. Now, that seems wild. Remember, this is set in the 1800s. Things like that happened. And so they hook up, and then she says, I want to have my own ranch, and he then becomes the foreman. Her father's like, okay, you can run your own ranch like you were planning on, but you will only do that if Jake is your foreman. So that happens. It's a romance. You know, sparks are going to fly. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it the first time I read it, the second time I read it. I don't know how many times I've read this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then the next book I read was Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. I gave this 4.5 stars. And it's Hercule Poirot at his finest. There's murders on the Nile River. So it's the story of Lynette Ridgway, and she is on her honeymoon trip with her husband, Simon Doyle, and Simon was actually engaged to another woman. Her name is Jackie, and he breaks off his engagement to marry Lynette, and Jackie keeps kind of like following them around the world, and then Lynette, and so she kind of follows them around the world. And that causes tension between Lynette and Simon and Jackie. Of course, there's murder. Hercule Poirot solves it. I read this because I could not watch the movie until I read this book. I didn't want to watch the movie knowing who did it and then read the book. That being said, I watched 3 different versions of Death on the Nile this month. I watched the one that just came out with Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. I watched the one with Peter Ustinov as Hercule Poirot. And then I also watched the one with David Suchet as Hercule Poirot. The one with David Suchet is the best one. The one with Kenneth Branagh, it was horrible. If you were looking for something that sticks pretty well to the book, the one with Kenneth Branagh, the one that recently came out, it is not like the book at all. They were trying to make it Jazz Age and Gilded Era Age, which it's for sure when it's set in place. But like all these different parties, the purpose of the trip down the Nile for it to be the honeymoon trip where they're inviting all their friends to this, like that did not happen. So don't really recommend that movie. Sorry. So that was Death on the Nile. And then the last book I read was Valor by John Gwynne. And I actually started this after Kaikai, and I read 200 pages in it, and I was just like, I don't know if this book is for me. And I put it down for a while because I was still feeling frustrated. So my biggest complaint with Malice was there was a whole ton of characters that he introduced us to, and it just kept being character upon character upon character, and no way to sort out who was who. This book does have a chart of who is who and who they're aligned with and where they are from. Do not use this chart, though, to read Malice, because you will get spoilers for Malice if you use this chart. So, but by page 200, I'm still flipping back and forth and trying to figure out who's who. And I was just not connecting with the characters. So I put it down. And then I picked it back up because I said, okay, I've read all the books I need to for my readathon. I was going to do a buddy read with this with some people on Sarah Reed's Discord. And so I said, okay, I'm going to come back to this. I am so glad I came back to this. It ended up being so good. So good. Some points of view I just kept looking forward to reading. And every time they leaped to the stage and leaped onto the page, I ate it up. I really loved reading Macwin's point of view. I really loved reading Fidel's point of view. I really loved reading. We get a new character, Coraline. Loved her. Cywin, loved her. What I love about John Gwynne is he writes strong females. Yes, this is military fantasy. So yes, it's kind of set in like that medieval time frame, but like women fight too, and it is glorious to see. If you're not familiar with the story of Malice and Valor and the Faithful and the Fallen, this is book 2 in that quartet. This is a story of there is going to be a god war coming, and where the Avatar, there's Elwyn, who is kind of like the good god, and then there's Azeroth, who's like the bad god, and they're going to fight. But they're going to have avatars on the earth, the black sun and the bright star. So of course the bright star is the good person, the black sun, the bad person. And who are those, who is the black sun and who is the bright star? That is a mystery. There's a prophecy about them that they're trying to figure out and trying to, of course we want Azeroth to be defeated. Thoroughly enjoyed this book, 4.5 stars, and I immediately picked up Ruin because I wanted to know what happens next. Whew, sorry for the long video. I did try to make it as quickly as I could. Let me know what your thoughts are on the books that I've read. Let me know what you read in July and what your favorite book was. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.